So, welcome back, everyone. This is the second of Adam Gibbs's members' images that were submitted, and this is going to be quite a challenge for me. I think it's a really interesting scene. Now, the thing that not bothers me as such, but you can see this line in the background there. It's almost as if the image is slightly tilted to make this stuff feel flatter. So this horizon being flat, but in the back there, it feels like there's stuff tilted. So that makes it a little bit more challenging for me, but I'm going to really see what I can do with distorting things and warping things and trying to do whatever I can. Now, with images like this, it can be very important to explore what tones are available. You know, is there anything? Now, if I open it right up, you can see there's quite a lot. There's a little bits of green in here, and I almost wonder if, you know, because we can go down a very stark, dark route, or we can go down a much, much brighter, more explicit, much more ethereally and airy type of look. So that, I think, is going to be the creative challenge here. This tree, I think, needs to go, and I think this one also. So I think if we keep it in the original format, which I think is probably 16 by 9, no, it's not. So go back to the original format, and I'm just going to pull this in until I get rid of the trees on the left and the right and that top branch coming in. And for me, I think I am going to make it 16 by 9. I'm not sure what this aspect ratio is, but I do like working in standardized aspect ratios, just because when I'm adding work to my website, I want it to be consistent. So I'm going to take some negative dehaze, a bit of clarity off there, and now I can start to pull the exposure down in places, but open up those highlights now a bit more. And I think the more foggy we make it in the back, the easier it's going to be to kind of not be so bothered by those, the kind of oddness of the shoreline. I think I am going to take this into Photoshop and do a little bit of perspective moving. Now, to decide on a color palette, cooler, as I've discussed in some of the other videos this week, cooler for snow always works. If you go too warm, things start to look odd. So I might actually go for just a really neutral kind of, a really neutral color space. Now, I think the shadows increase there was useful for giving an impression of what is in there, but I don't want it totally up. So I'm going to dial back those shadow details somewhat. If I crank the vibrance slider, you'll see I can bring out some of that green in the trees. And I think when you're processing images, you've always got to get to that point where you start making up a story. Now, there is no explicit story in this landscape other than it's been snowing and these are pine trees. You know, there's no explicit emotional story in this. And therefore we have to very much, well, we don't have to, but we can create our own stories. I'm just going to right click on here and take it into Photoshop so that I can have a look and see if there's anything I feel is a good thing to do in terms of moving these tones around a little bit. I think I'm going to come into my rapid mask and create a basic luminosity mask. Now, taking the color out of this image, I think actually helps. So I'm beginning to think that I might go down a very abstract root. And I think that abstract root in this case is going to be an inversion. So I can actually turn this inversion into the image. So if I hit Control Save, and you can see now as we zoom in, we've turned all that stuff in the back to blackness. Now, I didn't think that this was where I was going to go with this photograph. It's something I do periodically. I do invert images because it makes them extremely abstract and very unusual. Now, I don't like that little black spot up in the top there. So I will just come in with that Smart Stamp tool and just let it create a little patch for us. And there's a couple of bits at the top here that I think may be better to be filled in as well. I think the thing with creativity is it doesn't have a formula. The more that we inject formulas into our methodology, the less free we are. So if I come back into Lightroom now with that, you can see what a drastic shift we've had. And I am going to just increase the contrast again so I can brighten up those whites. I really want to make this very, very high contrast indeed, but without it clipping, of course. Now you can see I can open up the shadows now, or I can drop the shadows. Again, you can kind of fine tune that overall thing and maybe just pull the midtones down a fraction. Yeah, I kind of like that. Yeah, I like that very much now. So we have, if we go to the original file and look at those side by side, we have done something quite dramatically different from a traditional landscape photograph, and I apologize to the person who made this, whether they may not like it at all, but there was not very much color in it. There was a little bit of green. Whatever we did to it was going to make it feel maybe a little bit predictable. But by going down this route, I feel we've been given an opportunity to maybe just expose another technique that we have at our disposal to produce images that can be different and more challenging. I think there's something else I'm just going to do here. I'm just going to flip this horizontally because I think I prefer having that area of order. I like having on the left hand side there, and then it kind of fading away into a little bit more chaos on the right hand side. The image sort of sits better with my brain now. So there we are. To the anonymous person who submitted this image, I'd like to well, apologize if you hate it, but at the same time, with any luck, it might have opened up a little spark in your imagination to maybe look at images with a more infinite sense of possibility, rather than the traditional lines that we often find ourselves getting drawn down. Thanks very much for watching, everyone, and hopefully you'll enjoy